On this episode of V8TV, we're testing out some new paint colors on the Royal Sport Camaro. And later, we're actually building more of the Camaro's body shell. But first, let's check out some new colors brought to you by MSD Ignition. The color scheme has changed on the Royal Sport Camaro. The people at Royal Purple have decided to go with a silver scheme rather than a purple, so we met with our local PPG rep, Dave Cooper, to spray a test panel.
We're at Cooper Color in St. Louis, Missouri, a PPG Platinum distributor. We've got a '69 Camaro fender that V8TV brought by for a project car they're going to be doing for Royal Purple Racing Oil.
Choosing a color from a chip can be tricky, so the Cooper Color staff helped by spraying a fender from the Camaro so we could get a better look.
Customer comes in and wants to pick out that color. They can look at various chips on paper, but there's nothing like taking an actual spray out outside and seeing how those colors can come alive in the sunlight.
The man behind the gun at Cooper Color is Chuck Taylor, an on-staff expert paint technician.
This was a Camaro, or a fender for a Camaro, and what we did was there is a charcoal stripe, and we put two different colors of silver down first. The owner is going to take and pick which silver he likes. This is just for color comparison, as all this fender is for.
With PPG offering well over 400,000 custom and OEM colors to choose from, V8TV's got it narrowed down to two silvers. We're going to spray each one of those silvers, one half of one fender and the other on the other side of the fender, and then we're going to put a contrasting charcoal stripe over that. Then Royal Purple is going to pick out which silver they want.
It's a demo fender so the owner can see what his car is going to look like and, you know, basically which color he wants to take and go with.
We're going to paint this test panel for various reasons, but the main one is to see what this color looks like outside, inside, wherever. Why paint the whole car until you truly know the color of that silver and what it looks like inside and out?
The surgically clean mixing room at Cooper Color is where all the PPG colors are born.
All our colors here, all the different colors have different weights. Everything is done by weight. And so our scales are digital, and so we can get within 1/10 of a gram as far as the accuracy of the color.
The Vibrance line within PPG is every custom color imaginable under the sun. Anything from color changing pigments to liquid metals to liquid crystals to candy apples, you name it, it's in the Vibrance line.
You know, some colors, they might require 4 or 5 colors, other colors as much as 11 to make a color.
With all the colors to choose from, naturally you can even go beyond the spectrum and come up with something of your own. The V8TV wanted something that they would be able to duplicate at any given time across the United States. We picked out 2 colors that they can go to any PPG Platinum distributorship across the United States and be able to match that color instantly. This car is built to be driven, and unfortunately, driven means sometimes damage to that automobile. But that will not be a problem when it comes to repeat repairability and excellent color match. That's what makes PPG famous.
You know, it's not as easy as open up the can and paint it. You really, there's a little bit of, you know, schooling you have to do with it as far as, you know, checking it. Metallic colors are the main thing as far as checking it.
After checking the color, Chuck prepped our new Year 1 fender in the Cooper Color spray booth.
First step in this process was to take the fender, which was already ready to be sprayed, and just clean it, put a coat of sealer on it, and then apply the first coat of silver.
I got the fender, it was in factory primer, they call it E-coat, and there was a lot of bare metal. And what the sealer does, it's for adhesion, and it also makes a nice smooth surface for the base coat to take and go over. So you seal new parts, sealer makes a good foundation as far as, you know, let's say over used parts. New parts, you need good adhesion, especially with bare metal. You have to treat the bare metal in some way. And so that's what I chose to do, is put one coat of a urethane sealer over the panel.
Once the sealer had time to harden, it was time to spray Silver No. 1. Note the sealer color is similar to the base coat for better color coverage.
I mixed up my first base coat color. I sprayed it after it dried for 15-20 minutes. I had then masked off one half of the fender. And what I had done was then sprayed the other side of the fender with the second color silver till there was hiding.
Chuck performed a cool trick with a heat gun and a laser pyrometer to speed the drying process.
With the heat gun, what I had done was I was trying to move things along, which this is fine. You know, for time reasons, what I was doing was trying to dry the paint, drive the solvents out of the paint. And like I said, paint manufacturers don't recommend this, but it works. Then you can get it up to 160, 170. Automotive paint, it won't wrinkle or bubble up or whatever, what it'll do is actually burn. It'll start turning yellow or brownish. So I was basically just speeding up the drying process so I could get my masking tape on there and just move our process along.
As they say, don't try this at home.
Yeah, don't. only if somebody shows you how to do it.
Soon the panel was ready for the contrasting charcoal stripes.
Chuck laid out the stripe with 3M's fine line blue tape because it really is the easiest tape to use as far as contouring around edges and leaving a small film build.
The main trick to laying out stripe tape, okay? Everybody's seen here and there cars that go down the street and the stripes are crooked, they're wavy. Well, the main thing with laying out stripes is to stick it on one end of a panel or one end of a car, drag it out as far as you can without stretching the tape, and just lay it nice and straight, and you'll be able to actually pick it up and put it back down if something looks like it's dropping, and you actually just try to push it on as you go, just with the pressure of your hand itself with the tape.
After Chuck laid out the stripes and remasked the fender, he sprayed the charcoal stripe in several light coats.
The final step is where we apply the clear coat. That's where you get the pizzazz, the dramatic color effect, and above all, your durability and your distinction of image or gloss. V8TV chose PPG because of color. Whether it's a street rod or custom car, motorcycle, or prized possession that demands an awesome automotive finish, a custom color from the Vibrance collection is sure to make any ride stand out from the pack.
I like the front silver better. It's brighter, the flake is bigger, the back color looks more dingy. I mean, it's all personal preference, just like with spray guns and anything else. You know, it's the owner, what he's gonna like. You know, like some guys will say, what color should I put on my car? I ain't gonna tell you that. You know, it's like, it's all personal preference, what you like.
It's true that picking a color can be the hardest part of a car build, but PPG has you covered no matter what you choose.
From OEM colors to Vibrance, PPG is committed to color, and that's why they're the world leader in automotive finishing.
Of course, we can't paint anything until we finish the bodywork. When we return, we're checking in on the progress of the Royal Sport Camaro's body reconstruction. Stay with us. One company is the source for high-tech plasma cutters that slice everything from body panels to frames. For powerful wire feed MIG welders that easily weld thin patch panels and heavy suspension components. And for high-tech TIG welders to fabricate with precision thin aluminum, stainless steel exhaust headers, and chrome moly roll cages. HTP, your automotive welding specialist. Call 1-800-USA-WELD or check usaweld.com for a free catalog.
Do you know this great American muscle car? Well, what about this one? Or this one? Or these? If you love muscle cars, log on to year1.com. You'll find 18 comprehensive car parts catalogs filled with more than 100,000 muscle car parts and accessories. Year One has the parts you need for the car you love. Real cars, real drivers. Year One.
Welcome back to V8TV as we check in on the Royal Sport Camaro's reconstruction. Our 1969 Camaro project started out pretty rough, but we've been replacing body panels from the giant Year One stash to fix all the rust and crash damage.
The car that we got here today had a lot of problems when we first got it. It had tons of rust, it had been wrecked on the left-hand side. We're replacing all the parts that we can get from Year One to make it a brand new car.
At this stage of the process, the 69 Camaro convertible's body shell has been completely disassembled and split in half. A custom body jig was built to support the reconstructed tub, but very little of the original car is being used.
We had the front end set off where we could work on strictly the dash and the cowl, and then the rear we set up on the jig so we could set the floors and the rails all in place. We put it together in small sections so that we didn't lose the geometry of the factory car. I didn't want to cut everything off and then try to figure out where it set, where it laid.
John started with the trunk floor. Once the panel was test fitted to the new frame rails, John drilled holes in the panel where it was to weld to the frame, and then he welded the panels together.
I've started at the rear, that's your foundation. The panels are not adjustable. The front end you can adjust move one way or another to get your alignments. Your quarter panels have to be welded on, and from there out, everything else fits from them.
Next, John worked on the full-length floor pan.
We started in the center section with the year one full-length floor. Very nice part. It comes with all the brackets other than the seat mounts. We had to do a little hammering and dialing to get it to where I wanted it straight so the rockers would lay on it. We drilled a few extra spot welds in it so that just for added strength, it would fit in real easy, make a nice job out of repairing a car. If your rockers are good, it'll drop right in.
John welded the floor section to the frame rails from both the top and bottom sides, and then all the welds were ground to resemble a factory-style appearance.
A nice weld will have a little bit of a raise. You don't want nothing that looks like popcorn. That's not going to have good penetration into the next panel, and it's going to cause a lot of excessive grinding. If it's not welded properly, you're going to have stuff coming apart, creaking noises.
Once the floor was down, John installed the rear seat support onto the new year one floor section. Every panel not only provides its main function, but it also helps locate and support the panels around it. The rear seat support braces the inner wheelhouses. With the seat support in place, John moved to the rear of the car and welded in the structure behind the rear taillight panel and the trunk floor extensions.
Once I get the quarters and everything fitted in the rear tail pan, I won't have to take them back off to re-weld. I've clamped them in nice and solid, gives us a measuring point, something to go from.
Next, the crew installed the new rocker panels from Classic Industries onto the floor pan.
On this part, we put the rockers in, very heavy parts. We got them from Classic Industries. On a convertible, they're probably twice as thick as a normal car, and they have extra supports in it because there's no roof line. We clamped them in place with a set of vice grips, 3 or 4 vice grips, and a couple of screws on the top just to keep the right angle. We didn't weld them into the floor because this is the main leveling and adjustments for the doors. The cowl fits off of it, the quarters, the wheel tubs, everything welds to it. So we didn't want it solid until we knew it was right, because the amount of holes that we have drilled in it, there's probably 50 to 75 welds down each rocker, and that's a whole lot of repair. Even if it's level, you still have to fit all your panels before you start welding.
John then moved to the front section of the car to work on the cowl and the dashboard pieces.
We started working the panels. We drilled everything off as nice as we could. You'll find that you drill the spot welds, take your time, clean everything up. It'll come apart a lot easier, less damage, a lot less work to straighten so that you can put the new panels on. We put the upper dash in and the wiper area. We started with them, got them all squared. Had to do a little dolly, nothing major. Welded them in solid. Now the windshield post and the door frames are what's keeping it square.
John drilled and punched holes in the new panels, and then he clamped them in place with vice grip locking pliers while he welded up the holes.
On the top of the dash, where we found out that a lot of Camaros rust out from the stainless that goes underneath the windshield, dirt gets in behind there, just builds up and just rots all the way through. Instead of patching it in and causing us a lot of extra work, we chose to go with the new panels that we got. Very nice, smooth finish. When we get done, you won't be able to tell from top or bottom that they've been replaced. And when you look through the windshield, be nice and flat, no body work, cuts down on the time again.
John moved the entire front section to the shop floor and cleaned up the dash spot welds with some 3M roll-lock discs and Scotch-Brite wheels before spraying them with some weld-through primer to protect the welds from rusting.
And on this car, we've used a lot of 3M products, mainly roll-lock discs for grinding, the Scotch-Brite wheels. We also use a lot of cut-off wheels. Sometimes you can use a cut-off wheel to do the grinding. It does a lot nicer job, a lot less damage.
Next, he turned his attention to the cowl sides. These pre-welded reproductions from Classic Industries will repair the rusted front lower section of the car.
These are nice pieces. Instead of just replacing the outside piece, where you'd think they just rust out, a lot of the older cars, the dirt, leaves, stuff pile up in the fenders and they rot from the outside in.
Again, the original panels were drilled free with a Blair Rotabroach spot weld drill and carefully separated. John pulled the original cowl boxes off and then reworked the opening to fit the new replacement parts.
We also noticed that the inner parts were rotted out. That's where we came into these complete boxes. We weld them into the top. They fit down real nice. Everything's smooth. All you do is weld them in on the factory seams, seam seal it, it's done. There's no body work, no extra time. This is a good point too. When we're looking at Camaros or anybody else's, that's one thing you want to check, is how bad it's rotted in this area. If you can get the car on a lift, or if you can get up underneath it, check with a flashlight, see how bad they're rotted there. In the process of putting this car together, we found out that using tons of vice grips has come in real handy. Vice grips come in all different sizes, shapes, different depths, different lengths, and they're real handy. You can adjust panels without screwing holes into them. And when it comes time for welding, you'll see that in some cases, like on the cowl, I had probably 20 pair just to hold it in place. Vice grip brand is the best ones that we found to use though.
He finished welding the cowl box on the passenger side and then moved to the driver's side to repeat the process. The final step was removing the old rocker panels completely. When we return, we're making one big piece from the two halves, so don't go away. This episode of V8TV is brought to you by Tools USA. Call today for a free catalog packed with thousands of tools for your next restoration project, or look them up at toolsusa.com. Closed captioning for this episode of V8TV is brought to you by eBay Motors. From muscle cars to choppers and OEM parts to aftermarket accessories, you'll find what you need for your project car or daily driver on eBay Motors. You'll be hard-pressed to find it faster or cheaper anywhere else. With over 1 million parts for sale, if it runs on gasoline, you can get it on eBay Motors.
More products. More power. More raceway. More power. More top brands. More power. More innovation. More power. Period.
Welcome back to V8TV. After John finished welding the new cowl sides and cutting out the original rusty rocker panels, the crew test fitted the cowl to the body on the chassis jig. Once the rocker panels were in place, the new front cowl section could be test fitted. This way, the cowl could be moved forward or rearward to achieve the proper length of the car and proper door gaps.
We set up our jig when we built it. All the towers and platforms are at factory heights, widths, lengths. We did a lot of measuring to get it straight. All the holes, like where the subframe would mount, is dead in the center. Our cowl section is not welded right now to the floor. That way, if the doors need to move forward or back, when we set the car on the frame, we'll still have room to adjust for the fenders.
Well, your side looks good over there. Looks like this whole thing could come back a little bit. The front cowl section was screwed to the rocker panels to hold it in place. The only way to know if it's going to fit right is to fit it all together. Next, John installed the doors on the cowl to get an idea of where things lined up.
Right now we put the doors on, the hinges, put them in the center just to get a rough idea. We lined the front edge of the doors up with the very front edge of the rockers for our length. We also made sure that the bottom of the doors lined up with the rockers so that we knew the rocker wasn't down or up in the front. Everything sits pretty well level in the center, so we still have forgiveness if we need it. Nothing needs to be welded until everything fits. We want the doors to close, the trunk lid to close, without having any welds in.
Don't go away. We're test fitting the quarter panels when V8TV returns.
Harder, deeper, longer.
Bear means perfect performance brakes.
From pads and rotors to complete brake systems, 11 to 15-inch diameter rotors, 2 to 6 piston calipers. Baer delivers track-tested, road-proven braking solutions. Call 1-888-300-6950 or go to Baer.com.
MSD Ignition Systems provide the fire to muscle cars and off-road trucks to top teams in NASCAR and NHRA racing. Every MSD ignition control, coil, pro-billet distributor, and accessory are engineered for all-out performance with the highest quality, so you can rely on MSD for all of your performance ignition needs. For a free catalog, call 1-888-MSD-RACE. MSD Ignition, #1 for a reason.
You may not find Royal Purple on the hoods, but more than likely it's under them. And now the same lubrication technology is available for your car. Royal Purple motor oil is proven to deliver more horsepower and torque compared to leading synthetic and mineral oils. Independent tests prove it. Royal Purple also saves gas and dramatically reduces engine heat and wear. Listen, you've got to change your oil anyway, so why not get the most performance out of your car? For optimum performance, the only choice is Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms. This episode of V8TV is brought to you by Royal Purple High Performance Synthetic Oil. Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms. And by Fast Times Motorworks, now offering LS1 engine packages from just $23.59. Check them out at fasttimesmotorworks.com. The body is finally starting to resemble a '69 Camaro, and the next hurdle was the quarter panels.
These were a little bit of a challenge. They fit well, but they weld in so many different places that we had everything loose, so we had a lot of fitting to do. They attach top, bottom, and this is the foundation of your whole car. If these are put on crooked, you're going to have troubles all the way to the headlights.
The inner structure pieces are not available as reproductions, and there aren't many 1969 Camaro convertibles in junkyards, so the crew elected to repair the panels they had. The passenger side was used to test fit the quarter panel and was in decent condition, but it still was a challenge.
I had to do a little modifying on the wheel wells, on the floor, because nothing is exactly what you want from factory. Even factory parts do not fit perfect. We had to do a little minor adjusting here and there. Should have no problem having them fitted up. Just had a little bit of work to do on them.
The driver's side inner structure required patches to be welded in to fix the rust holes, and the whole thing had been damaged in an accident, so the crew spent a lot of time disassembling the little pieces and straightening them out. Then they had to reassemble all the pieces and hope they were the right length so that the driver quarter panel would fit properly. They left the front sections screwed to the rear half so they could adjust the entire length.
On a car like this, we'd like to see 3/16 gaps all the way around, which would be really nice. From factory, that's what they specify in our build book, but I don't think they were quite that tight back then. We're going to make it a little nicer. Once the quarter panels are set and on, then the tail panel goes in. This is another part that has to be lined up, fitted. All the body lines have to match.
Considering the extensive and time-consuming task of completely reconstructing a 1969 Camaro, we asked John if this task was, well, difficult.
This car is not really a pain in the ass. It's just for such few pieces compared to the new cars that I've worked on, with the aftermarket and the challenge of having everything cut apart, that's where we're taking so much time. Usually when you go to replace a quarter on the car or build one of these cars, you're only cutting one piece, maybe a couple off at one time. We have nothing. We've started with nothing, and we're going to build something out of this one.
Thanks for watching this episode of V8TV. Like every episode, you can find a lot more information about everything you've seen on today's show by visiting our website at www.v8tvshow.com.